Have you ever watched your grandfather struggle to get out of bed in the morning, moving slower than he used to, and wondered if there was something you could do to help him feel stronger and more energetic? What if I told you that a prestigious geriatrician has been desperately trying to warn families about a seemingly innocent morning habit that is literally stealing years of life from our beloved elderly relatives, and it has nothing to do with coffee or medication? This morning ritual, practiced by millions of seniors every single day, is silently accelerating their aging process, increasing their risk of dangerous falls and robbing them of the vitality they deserve in their golden years. The most heartbreaking part is that most families have no idea this is happening right under their noses. I'm about to share with you the urgent plea from Dr. Sarah Martinez, a renowned geriatrician with over 30 years of experience, who has dedicated her career to studying how simple morning habits can either extend or dramatically shorten the healthy lifespan of our elders. What she discovered will change the way you think about how your loved ones start their day forever. Dr. Martinez has witnessed countless families devastated by preventable falls, unnecessary cognitive decline, and the gradual loss of independence in their elderly relatives. Her research reveals that the difference between a senior who maintains their strength and vitality well into their 90s and one who begins declining rapidly in their 70s often comes down to what happens in the first 10 minutes after they wake up. Before we dive deeper into this life-changing information, I want you to do something for me right now. If you care about the health and well-being of an elderly loved one in your life, whether it's a parent, grandparent, or family friend, please hit the like button on this video. Your engagement helps us reach more families who desperately need this information. And if you're new here, consider subscribing because we're building a community dedicated to protecting and empowering our elders with science-backed health strategies that actually work. Now, let me paint you a picture that might feel painfully familiar. It's 7 in the morning, and your grandfather slowly opens his eyes. Instead of feeling refreshed and ready to embrace the day, he lies there for another 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes, scrolling through his phone or simply staring at the ceiling. When he finally decides to get up, he sits on the edge of the bed for a moment, then slowly pushes himself to standing, often using furniture or walls for support. He shuffles to the bathroom, then to the kitchen for a simple breakfast of toast and coffee, or maybe just some cookies and tea. This routine seems harmless, even reasonable for someone his age. After all, why rush when you're retired? But Dr. Martinez wants you to understand that this innocent-looking morning sequence is actually a perfectly orchestrated recipe for accelerated aging and increased vulnerability. The first invisible sabotage begins the moment your loved one chooses to remain sedentary in bed after waking. While they lie there, seemingly resting, their body is actually experiencing what Dr. Martinez calls the stagnation cascade. During those extra minutes of inactivity, blood flow remains sluggish, particularly in the lower extremities. This creates a dangerous condition where the cardiovascular system fails to properly transition from sleep mode to active mode. Think of the human body like a vintage car engine on a cold morning. When that engine has been sitting idle all night, it needs a proper warm-up sequence to function optimally. If you try to drive it immediately without letting it gradually come to life, you risk serious damage. But if you let it sit there idling too long without engaging the engine properly, you create a different kind of problem. The oil doesn't circulate efficiently, the engine never reaches its optimal operating temperature, and over time, this pattern leads to premature wear and breakdown. Your grandfather's body works similarly. After 8 hours of horizontal rest, his circulatory system, muscles, and nervous system need a gentle but purposeful activation sequence. When he remains inactive in bed, he's essentially forcing his body to stay in that cold, sluggish state longer than necessary. This creates a cascade of negative effects that will impact his entire day. The blood that should be actively circulating to bring oxygen and nutrients to his brain remains pooled in his lower body. His muscles, particularly the deep stabilizing muscles around his spine and hips, remain in their relaxed, lengthened state from sleep. Most critically, his balance and proprioception systems, which are already compromised by age, miss out on the gradual reactivation they desperately need. But the damage goes far beyond just feeling groggy. Dr. Martinez explains that this morning stagnation directly contributes to a condition called orthostatic hypotension, where blood pressure drops significantly when moving from lying to standing. For seniors, this isn't just uncomfortable, it's genuinely dangerous. That momentary dizziness or lightheadedness that your grandfather might dismiss as normal aging is actually his cardiovascular system struggling to adapt to the sudden change in position. Here's what most families don't realize about the true danger lurking in this seemingly harmless morning routine. This blood pressure drop doesn't just cause dizziness, it affects cognitive function, creating mental fog that can too last for hours. It impacts coordination and balance, making every step throughout the day slightly less stable than it should be. Over time, this daily assault on the cardiovascular system contributes to a gradual decline in overall heart health and increases the risk of more serious cardiovascular events. The second layer of this morning sabotage involves something that seems completely unrelated, but is actually devastating to senior health: the disruption of their natural circadian rhythm. Your grandfather's body has an internal clock that has been refined over millions of years of human evolution. This clock expects movement and light exposure at dawn, not continued sedentary behavior and artificial screen time. When he reaches for his phone or tablet while still in bed, he's essentially sending his pineal gland conflicting signals about what time of day it is and what his body should be doing. The blue light from screens suppresses melatonin production, but more importantly, it disrupts the natural cortisol awakening response that should be energizing him for the day ahead. Dr. Martinez discovered that seniors who use electronic devices immediately upon waking experience a dysregulation of their stress hormone production that can last throughout the entire day. Instead of the healthy, energizing cortisol spike that should accompany waking, they experience a blunted, confused hormonal response that leaves them feeling tired and mentally unclear. This hormonal confusion has far-reaching consequences. It affects their appetite regulation, making them more likely to crave simple carbohydrates and less likely to feel satisfied by nutritious foods. It impacts their mood and motivation, contributing to the depression and apathy that many families mistakenly attribute to normal aging. Most dangerously, it disrupts their sleep-wake cycle, making it harder for them to fall asleep the following night, and creating a vicious cycle of poor sleep quality. The third component of this morning disaster sequence occurs during the critical moment when your grandfather finally decides to stand up. This is where Dr. Martinez says she sees the most preventable injuries occur, and it all comes down to a movement pattern that seems so natural that no one ever thinks to question it. Watch your grandfather get out of bed tomorrow morning, and you'll likely see him commit what Dr. Martinez calls the first false step. Instead of engaging his core muscles and moving deliberately, he probably twists his torso while pushing himself up, relying heavily on his arms and whatever surface he can grab for support. This twisting motion while the spine is still decompressed from sleep creates a micro-imbalance that reverberates through his entire kinetic chain. The psoas muscle, which is crucial for hip stability and proper posture, has been in a shortened, relaxed state all night. When your grandfather suddenly demands that it support his full body weight while simultaneously rotating, it's simply not prepared for the task. This creates a compensatory pattern where other muscles, particularly in the lower back and hips, have to work overtime to maintain stability. But this seemingly minor movement error is setting the stage for something far more serious than just a stiff back. Over time, this daily pattern of compromised movement creates what Dr. Martinez calls micro-instabilities throughout the muscular and skeletal system. These aren't injuries that send someone to the emergency room immediately, but they're cumulative damage that gradually erodes the very foundation of safe, confident movement. The stabilizing muscles around the spine become weaker and less coordinated. The proprioceptive sensors in the joints become less sensitive, making it harder for the brain to accurately assess body position and movement. The neural pathways that control balance and reflexes become less efficient, slowing reaction time when a quick adjustment is needed to prevent a fall. All of this damage accumulates silently, day after day, until one morning when your grandfather gets up to use the ED bathroom, takes a step, and finds that his body simply can't respond quickly enough to a minor balance challenge. The fall that follows isn't really caused by that moment. It's the inevitable result of months or years of gradual degradation that began with poor morning movement patterns. Dr. Martinez emphasizes that this isn't about getting older. It's about the daily choices that either support or undermine the body's natural ability to maintain strength and stability. She's seen 70-year-olds who move with the confidence and grace of someone decades younger. And she's seen 60-year-olds who are already showing signs of frailty and instability. The difference isn't genetics or luck, it's in the accumulated impact of daily habits, particularly what happens in those crucial first minutes of each day. The tragedy is that families often notice these changes gradually and assume they're inevitable. They see their loved one moving more slowly, seeming more tired, requiring more assistance with daily activities, and they chalk it up to the natural aging process. They don't realize that much of what they're witnessing is actually the result of preventable morning habits that are silently stealing vitality and independence. The question that's probably burning in your mind right now is this: if these innocent morning habits are causing so much damage, what can we do to turn things around? Dr. Martinez spent years developing what she calls the physiological reset sequence, a series of simple but scientifically grounded steps that can literally reverse much of the damage caused by poor morning habits. But before I reveal these life-changing strategies, we need to understand one more critical piece of the puzzle that ties everything together. The solution isn't just about changing physical movements, it's about understanding the profound connection between emotional well-being and physical health in seniors. Dr. Martinez discovered that the most successful interventions weren't just about better habits. They were about restoring a sense of purpose and connection that transforms the morning routine from a dreaded necessity into an empowering ritual that sets the tone for the entire day. What Dr. Martinez discovered next changed everything she thought she knew about aging and morning routines. During her research with hundreds of seniors, she noticed that the patients who showed the most dramatic improvements weren't just following better physical protocols, they were experiencing something she calls the emotional catalyst effect. These seniors had found a way to transform their morning routine into something meaningful that connected them to their loved ones and gave them a sense of purpose that extended far beyond just getting out of bed. This revelation led Dr. Martinez to focus on a forgotten neurochemical that holds the key to transforming morning vitality in seniors: dopamine. While most people associate dopamine with pleasure and reward, Dr. Martinez explains that in seniors, dopamine serves a far more critical function as the neurochemical bridge between motivation and physical capability. Here's what happens in the brain of a senior who starts their morning with purpose and intention versus one who simply goes through the motions. When your grandfather wakes up with a clear sense of something meaningful to accomplish, even something as simple as preparing a special breakfast for his grandchildren or tending to a small garden, his brain releases a carefully orchestrated cascade of neurochemicals that literally prepare his body for optimal function. This dopamine release doesn't just improve mood, it enhances motor control, sharpens cognitive function, and most importantly, activates the sympathetic nervous system in a healthy, controlled way that energizes the cardiovascular system without creating stress. Dr. Martinez calls this the biochemical turnaround, and it can be triggered through what she terms sensory microwaves. These sensory microwaves are simple environmental cues that signal to the brain that something positive and purposeful is about to happen. The aroma of cinnamon warming in the kitchen, the feel of natural sunlight streaming through a window, the sound of birds chirping outside, or even the texture of a soft blanket against the skin can trigger this positive neurochemical response when incorporated intentionally into the morning routine. But here's the crucial part that most families miss. These sensory cues only work when they're connected to meaningful activity and social connection. If your grandfather simply smells cinnamon while lying in bed checking his phone, the effect is minimal. But if that same aroma is connected to his intention to prepare a special morning smoothie that he'll share with family members, the neurochemical response is profound and physically transformative. Dr. Martinez developed a protocol she calls the dopamine activation sequence that takes advantage of this mind-body connection. It begins before your grandfather even opens his eyes fully. As he becomes aware that he's waking up, instead of reaching for his phone or lying there passively, he's trained to take 3 deep breaths while setting a positive intention for something specific he wants to accomplish that morning. This might sound simplistic, but the physiological effects are measurable and immediate. Those 3 intentional breaths activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps regulate blood pressure and heart rate during the transition from sleep to waking. The positive intention triggers the dopamine release that will support better movement and cognitive function throughout the morning routine. The next step involves what Dr. Martinez calls sensory awakening. Before getting out of bed, your grandfather engages 2 of his senses intentionally. This might mean taking a moment to really listen to the sounds around him, feeling the texture of his bedding, or noticing the quality of light in the room. This sensory engagement helps activate the prefrontal cortex, which is crucial for balance, coordination, and decision-making. But the real breakthrough in Dr. Martinez's approach comes when we address the nutritional foundation that most seniors are unknowingly sabotaging every single morning. The standard senior breakfast that your grandfather probably eats, consisting of simple carbohydrates like toast, cereal, or pastries with coffee or tea, is actually creating a metabolic disaster that undermines every other healthy choice he might make throughout the day. Dr. Martinez explains that seniors have a dramatically increased need for high-quality protein compared to younger adults, but most are getting less than half of what their bodies actually require. This protein deficiency isn't just about muscle mass, though that's certainly part of the problem. Protein provides the amino acids that are essential for neurotransmitter production, including the dopamine and serotonin that regulate mood, motivation, and cognitive function. When seniors start their day with a carbohydrate-heavy, protein-poor breakfast, they're essentially programming their brains for fatigue, mood instability, and poor decision-making. The condition Dr. Martinez sees most often in her patients is sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. What most families don't realize is that sarcopenia isn't just about looking frail, it's directly connected to fall risk, cognitive decline, and overall mortality. The good news is that sarcopenia is largely preventable and even reversible with the right nutritional interventions, particularly when those interventions are implemented first thing in the morning. Dr. Martinez recommends that seniors consume at least 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein within the first hour of waking. This seems like a lot, especially for seniors who might not have much appetite in the morning, but she's developed a solution that's both practical and delicious: the Power Smoothie Protocol. This isn't just any protein smoothie. Dr. Martinez's formula includes specific ingredients that work synergistically to support senior health in multiple ways. The base is high-quality protein powder, preferably whey or collagen, which provides the essential amino acids needed for muscle maintenance and neurotransmitter production. To this, she adds healthy fats from sources like avocado or nut butter, which help with nutrient absorption and provide sustained energy. The genius of this approach is in the additional ingredients that transform a simple protein drink into a comprehensive health intervention. Frozen berries provide antioxidants that support brain health and reduce inflammation. A small amount of spinach or kale adds folate and other B vitamins that are crucial for cognitive function. A teaspoon of cinnamon not only adds flavor, but also helps regulate blood sugar and may support memory function. But the most important ingredient in Dr. Martinez's Power Smoothie isn't nutritional at all. It's emotional. She discovered that when seniors prepare this smoothie with the intention of sharing it with family members or teaching the recipe to grandchildren, the act of preparation becomes a meaningful ritual that enhances all of the other benefits. This brings us to the centerpiece of Dr. Martinez's approach: the transformation of the morning routine from a series of individual tasks into what she calls the Virtue Circle ritual. This 10-minute sequence combines optimal physical movement, targeted nutrition, and meaningful social connection into a daily practice that can literally reverse years of decline and restore vitality and independence. The Virtue Circle begins while your grandfather is still in bed, but instead of lying there passively, he starts with the dopamine activation sequence we discussed earlier. As he prepares to get up, he follows a specific movement protocol that Dr. Martinez designed to safely transition the body from sleep to activity while building strength and stability. Instead of the dangerous twisting motion that most seniors use to get out of bed, your grandfather learns to roll onto his side, use his arms to push himself into a sitting position, and then pause for a moment to allow his cardiovascular system to adjust. During this pause, he takes 3 more deep breaths and sets his intention for the meaningful activity he's about to engage in. The standing transition becomes a deliberate exercise in core engagement and balance. Rather than simply pushing himself up, your grandfather learns to engage his abdominal muscles, press his feet firmly into the floor, and rise in a controlled movement that actually strengthens the very muscles and neural pathways that prevent falls. Once standing, instead of immediately shuffling to the bathroom, your grandfather performs a series of gentle movements that Dr. Martinez calls the morning activation sequence. These aren't complicated exercises. They're simple stretches and movements that wake up the major muscle groups and joints in a specific order, designed to optimize circulation and neural function. The transformation that happens next is where families begin to see changes that seem almost miraculous. Your grandfather moves to the kitchen with a sense of purpose, not just to feed himself, but to prepare something meaningful that connects him to his family. As he gathers the ingredients for his power smoothie, he's engaging in complex motor planning that challenges and strengthens his cognitive function. The act of measuring, blending, and combining ingredients requires hand-eye coordination, sequential thinking, and fine motor control. But the real magic happens when this routine becomes a shared family experience. Dr. Martinez encourages families to establish a regular time when grandchildren can visit or call during the morning smoothie preparation. Suddenly, what was once a solitary, mundane task becomes an opportunity for your grandfather to share knowledge, tell stories, and feel valued for his contribution to the family's well-being. The psychological impact of this transformation cannot be overstated. Seniors who feel useful and connected to their families show measurable improvements in cognitive function, physical strength, and overall health outcomes. When your grandfather knows that his grandchildren are looking forward to learning his special smoothie recipe or hearing his stories about the old days, he has a reason to get up with energy and enthusiasm rather than resignation. Dr. Martinez has tracked the long-term outcomes of families who implement this complete morning transformation, and the results are remarkable. Within just 2 weeks, Most seniors show improved balance and coordination. After a month, family members report that their loved ones seem more alert, energetic, and engaged throughout the day. After 3 months, measurable improvements in muscle mass, bone density, and cognitive function become apparent. But perhaps the most profound change is in the family dynamics themselves. Adult children who were once worried about their aging, parents' decline find themselves looking forward to morning check-ins and smoothie recipe exchanges. Grandchildren who once saw their grandparents as frail and limited begin to view them as sources of wisdom and vitality. The virtue circle creates a self-reinforcing cycle where physical health improvements lead to better mood and cognitive function, which enhances social connections, which provides motivation for continued healthy behaviors, which leads to further physical improvements. This is the opposite of the decline spiral that most families fear and expect as their loved ones age. Dr. Martinez emphasizes that this transformation doesn't require expensive equipment, complicated supplements, or dramatic lifestyle changes. It requires intention, consistency, and most importantly, the recognition that our seniors aren't just bodies that need maintenance, they're whole human beings who thrive when they feel valued, useful, and connected to something meaningful. The BT families who embrace this approach find that they're not just helping their elderly loved ones live longer, they're helping them live better. The morning routine becomes a daily opportunity to strengthen family bonds while building physical and cognitive resilience that can last for decades. As we reach the end of our time together today, I want you to consider this profound truth. The morning routine that your grandfather follows tomorrow will either contribute to his gradual decline or actively support his continued vitality and independence. The choice isn't his alone. It's a family decision that requires understanding, support, and commitment from everyone who loves him. The strategies that Dr. Martinez has developed aren't just about preventing falls or maintaining muscle mass. They're about preserving dignity, fostering connection, and ensuring that our elders can continue to contribute meaningfully to their families and communities for as long as possible. But this raises an even deeper question about the nature of aging itself and what we can realistically expect as we grow older. What other secrets about senior health are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by families who are willing to challenge conventional assumptions about what it means to age? If you found value in this information and want to support our mission to bring more life-changing health revelations to families everywhere, please consider leaving a super thanks. Your financial help allows us to continue researching and sharing the kind of breakthrough information that can truly transform lives. Every contribution, no matter the size, helps this channel reach further and impact more families who desperately need these insights. Remember, the morning routine we've discussed today is just the beginning of what's possible when we approach senior health with the right knowledge and commitment. Tomorrow morning, when you see your grandfather begin his day, you'll have the power to help him choose vitality over decline, connection over isolation, and purpose over resignation.